Hello everyone, welcome back to another news video here. We got a couple of things to discuss today, including a signing, a couple of waiver updates, some injury updates, plus a couple of trade rumors involving the Vegas Golden Knights, Edmonton Oilers, Pittsburgh Penguins, and some more major trade rumors around the Calgary Flames, which all of that coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the NHL channel. Before we get started, don't forget to like this video and subscribe down below. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to do this without you guys. You guys have been so supportive, so if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so we can hit 250 subscribers. Also leave a comment down in the comment section below discussing all I was discussing today's video. Now, just a reminder, this is the last day I was doing my game review video. Over the next 2.5 weeks, I'm going to focus a little bit more on doing the NHL Trade Rumours stuff. We're going to probably have a lot of trades over the next 2.5 weeks, so I'll be dedicating my time to the Trade Rumours stuff. We'll do another game review video after trade deadline, and don't forget to stay tuned for March 8th at 9:30. I haven't gone a concrete timeline yet, but early in the morning Pacific time, I'm going to do another trade deadline live video. So if you can, remember to stay tuned for March 8th in the morning Pacific time as we get set for the March 8th trade deadline. So don't forget to stay tuned for that. But we're going to start today's video off by signing. We only have one signing over the past couple of days, and that was Boston Bruins signing undrafted forward Justin Brazeau to a 2-year contract with the AAV of $175,000, and the deal is for the rest of this year and next year. Now, for the Bruins, this is a fantastic signing. Brazeau is a really good young prospect. He hasn't gone to any NHL action so far, so he's been playing in the AHL for quite some time, been more of an AHL contract type player. He played over in Toronto's AHL affiliates for a little while, and then he's been playing in the Boston Bruins affiliates for the last little while. Last year has actually been some of his better seasons. Last year in 67 games just playing in the AHL, but 45 points including 16 goals. This year so far in 49 games, he already had 37 points, including a career high 18 goals in the AHL, so he did fantastic at the AHL level. So the Bruins saw some more room here for them to upgrade, get some more depth on the roster, so they signed him to a 2-year contract. That's fantastic. It's league minimum 2, so it's not like they're going to really be overly burdened by this sort of a contract. He's even gone to his first NHL game over the weekend, playing against the Dallas Stars yesterday, and scored his first career NHL goal. So very good stuff there for Brazeau. He's had a fantastic AHL season over the past couple of years. Actually, he's been a fantastic AHL player, and now he's going to convert to the NHL. So very good stuff there for the Bruins. Like I said, he's got a first NHL goal. Not exactly sure how long he stays at the NHL level. I am expecting the Bruins to make some upgrades before the trade deadline, so maybe he gets set back down after that. But for the time being, Brazeau is able to play in the NHL, and he does have a 2-year contract. So that's a very good sign there for the Boston Bruins to sign Brazeau to a 2-year contract extension, and they at least get a little more forward depth for the next couple of years. So it's really good stuff there for Boston. But it was the only sign that we've had over the past couple of days. Going over to a quick waiver update here from over the past few days. On Sunday, we had 2 players we placed on waivers. That was Matt Luff with the Detroit Red Wings and Oscar Steen with the Boston Bruins. Now, Luff was coming off of injury reserve from the Detroit Red Wings organization. He'd been there for like a couple of months now, so he'd been out for quite some time. When healthy, he's like a decent 12-13 forward. He's not really a legit everyday NHL player, but he can play at the NHL level sometimes, and is a decent fourth liner. But given the fact he was coming off of injury reserve, I thought there was probably no one who winds up claiming him. Oscar Steen's actually had a pretty decent year this year for the Boston Bruins, being a solid fourth line forward for them. So I thought maybe with him having not too high of a cap hit, with some teams looking for some forward helps in the bottom 6, maybe there would be a couple of teams out there who would claim him, but nope, both guys wound up clearing. So not overly surprised there on Luff. Like I said, he's coming off of injury reserve. He's a decent 12-13 forward at the NHL level, but given the fact he was coming off of injury reserve, was out for quite some time, I'm not really surprised that they wound up clearing. So that's a really good stuff there for Detroit, as they were able to keep a call-up option in the AHL for a time being. Meanwhile, for the Boston Bruins, Oscar Steen, like we said, he winds up clearing. I'm a little bit surprised by that. Steen's a decent fourth-line forward. I thought with some teams who need some fourth-line forward help, Steen not being an overly expensive contract, they might wind up claiming him, but indeed they don't. So interesting stuff there. But Steen does wind up going on waivers and clearing. So Boston's able to keep a solid call-up option if they run into some more injuries in the near future. Same thing with Detroit. And this is some pretty good moves there for Detroit and Boston. They're able to get players on waivers, and they're able to keep those 2 players. So interesting moves there. But Luff in Detroit and Boston with Steen are able to both wind up getting their players cleared. And Luff and Steen will go to the minors. Will be able to play for a time being, but both will be call-up options if those 2 teams run into injuries. So interesting stuff there where Detroit and Boston play Steen and Luff on waivers on Sunday, and they both went on clearing yesterday. So interesting stuff there. No new waiver updates at this point in time after those guys were placed on waivers and cleared. So we'll have to wait and see where our next waiver waiver update comes from, but interesting stuff there. Steen and Luff have been cleared off of waivers. So interesting moves there by the Red Wings and the Bruins. Next, going over to a couple of quick injury updates from the past few days. So we have a couple of injury updates to talk about here. First, Brock McGinn has an upper body injury. He's going to be out for another period of time. However, Sonny Milano in Washington, Jansen Harkins in Pittsburgh, Nick Paul in Tampa, Zub and Sanderson in Ottawa, Killorn in Anaheim, and Martin Jones in Toronto have all been cleared to play and have either gone back into game action or should in the not too distant future. So interesting stuff there. Meanwhile, yesterday we did have a couple of injuries. Jalen Chatfield has an upper body injury, is out for another period of time. Hakanpää, same thing, upper body injury, out for another period of time. Matt Duchene, also in Dallas, has a lower body injury, out for another period of time. Martin Ferravari in Washington has a lower body injury, is out for a week-to-week period of time. For the Rangers, Ryan Lindgren has an upper body injury, out for an unknown period of time. Jacob Lauko in Boston has an upper body injury and is out for a day-to-day period of time. Will Lagesson has an upper body injury and is out for a day-to-day period of time, so bad stuff there for those teams. But we saw Theodore be cleared to play by Vegas Golden Knights and should get back into game action not just in the future. Like we said, Luff was cleared to play off of injury reserve and was sent down, so he should be able to get back into some AHL action. And Henry Throne was cleared to play by the San Jose Sharks, and he should also be able to get back into NHL action. So interesting stuff there. Good to see guys like Luff get back off of injury reserve, Thrun, Theodore, Zub and Sanderson in Ottawa, Killorn and Anaheim. Good to see all those guys get back, but bad news to see guys like Ferravari go down with an injury, again go down with an injury, Lagesson, Lindgren for sure in New York. Bad news to see all those guys go down with injuries, and hopefully they're able to recover in the next little while and are able to get back to the not just in future. So some interesting injury updates there for the past few days. And lastly here, going over to a couple of quick trade rumors. Now first, going over to the Pittsburgh Penguins. They've not done overly well over the past little while. They're still a decent amount of points out of a playoff spot, so there's no guarantees they wind up making it. There's still a very likely possibility they wind up being sellers. And there's a name that's been popping up over the past little while that I think is a very likely trade option there too, that I've seen a couple of people say could be a trade option, and that is Penguins backup goaltender Alex Nedeljkovic. Now we know that the market for goaltending right now is really hot. We know a guy like Sowers could be dealt, a guy like John Gibson, Jake Allen, Jacob Markstrom. These are all starting level goaltenders, but let's say a couple of these guys get moved, there will be a couple of teams out there who would like some more goalie depth but are not able to get some of these bigger names. So they may look for some cheaper UFA backups who can at least give them some goaltending insurance over the playoffs. And I think Nedeljkovic could be one of those guys. I think Nedeljkovic could come to an NHL team, wind up being a solid either backup goaltender who can be called upon if there's a couple of other injuries, or a third string goaltender just to provide some goalie depth. So I do think there could be a couple of teams out there who have some interest in Nedeljkovic. Now, I know a team like Edmonton comes to mind. I don't think they're at the point right now where they're trying to make that big goaltending move that they were talking about earlier in the year, but given the fact that they have Picker as their backup, not exactly sure if they would want to do that. So if they could use a little bit of their cap space to go and get a little bit of a better backup in a guy like Alex Nedeljkovic, I could definitely see that be a possibility. And we know that there's teams out there who, like Vegas last year, had a lot of goaltending injuries, so they went out, picked up a goaltender like a Jonathan Quick that didn't really get to play very much, but it was very good insurance just in case there were some injuries to some of their players. And he worked out really well as a third string goaltender. So I could see Nedeljkovic have similar sort of role if he was to be acquired at deadline, be a solid third string goaltender and only be called upon if there was some injuries. So I'll have to wait and see exactly what happens there, but I could definitely see Nedeljkovic be a solid trade option there for some of these teams. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what happens, but watch out for Nedeljkovic. He could definitely be a potential trade option there for Pittsburgh Penguins. Going over to the Vegas Golden Knights, apparently, according to a couple of reports I've seen, they have some interest in Coyotes forward Jason Zucker. Now, I don't think there's too much of a surprise. The Golden Knights have a pretty good forward group, a pretty good defensive core, a really good goaltending tandem. They have brought back pretty much the same roster last year that won the Stanley Cup, minus a guy like Riley Smith, and they're doing fantastic again this year. But I do think they could try and strengthen this team a little bit. They've had a lot of injuries this year. They could probably use another third line forward. My guess would be maybe a little bit of a more depth defenseman just to come in case of injuries. So I could see him look for a third line forward, and that's where a guy like Jason Zucker could come in. Zucker is a very fantastic, very good middle six forward. I think on a team like Vegas, once they get healthier, he will be a fantastic third line forward for that team. So I could definitely see the Golden Knights try and target a guy like Jason Zucker at trade deadline. I do think they will add. Not sure if it'll be overly big and if they'll give up too many assets, but I do think they will definitely consider a guy like possibly a Zucker as a possible trade candidate. I think could see the Coyotes move Zucker too. They've lost 10 straight. They're falling out of the playoff race. I do expect the Coyotes to be sellers now at this point in time. I expect guys like Zucker, Dumba, Bukestad, maybe even Jamelka to possibly be on the move by the Arizona Coyotes, and maybe they move a couple of other pieces too. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what the Arizona Coyotes do at the deadline. But I do expect Zucker to be a guy who could definitely be moved, and I think Vegas could definitely have a lot of interest in him. Like I say, he could be a very good forward, produce on like the third line. I think he could be a very good player who sort of rounds out the Golden Knights' top 9. So we'll have to wait and see exactly where this goes. But according to a couple of reports, Vegas does have some serious interest in a guy like Jason Zucker, and could be a really good potential option there for the Vegas Golden Knights to target. I don't even think it will take too much to acquire a guy like Jason Zucker. I mean, Zucker's having a decent season. If the Coyotes retain half of his cap hit, it's just over $2 million. I could see him be commanding something like a maybe third round pick, and maybe another prospect, low-end guy would be my guess. So I don't think it'll take too much to acquire Zucker, but I think he could be a very fantastic third-line option there for Vegas Golden Knights. So I'll have to wait and see on that. But that could be a fantastic pickup there for the Vegas Golden Knights. Then going over to Edmonton Oilers on the Saturday Night Headlines segment on Hockey Night in Canada. Elliotte Friedman was talking about the Edmonton Oilers. He was talking about Philip Broberg. Now, we've heard Broberg's name a ton this year. We've heard his name as possibly wanting a fresh start. We've heard his name as possibly being a sweetener to move Jack Campbell. But according to Elliotte Friedman, there's been a lot of teams out there who've been calling on Philip Broberg, which is to be expected given the fact that he wants a fresh start. But according to Elliotte Friedman, GM Kellen Holland is not going to move him unless it's for someone who's not a rental. So they've been linked to a guy like Jake Gensel in Pittsburgh. They've been linked to a guy like Jordan Eberle in Seattle. I think they've been linked to a couple of other guys too who are pending UFAs. But if they were to acquire a pending UFA, apparently they are not willing to move Philip Broberg for just that. I think they want to move Broberg if it was either to get like a Campbell off the books, to sort of help them get a little more cap flexibility, or if it was able to get them a long-term fit, like a top for the Frenchman with term or a top 9 forward with term. I think they'll be open to moving Broberg. But if it was just a rental, like a Gensel, like an Eberle, they may be also a team who could be looking at a guy like Jason Zucker too. If they were to trade for any of those types of guys, they are not going to be able to give up Phil Broberg in that sort of a package. So don't expect Broberg to be dealt just for a rental. If he was to be dealt, it will probably be for like a sweetener to move Jack Campbell, or it will be for a guy with term. So according to Elliotte Friedman, a lot of people have been checking in on the Edmonton Oilers and looking to see if they can wind up acquiring Broberg for just a rental. And according to Edmonton, they are not willing to do that unless it's for someone with term. So we'll have to wait and see exactly how that works out. But apparently Broberg could definitely possibly be moved, but it's not going to be for rental according to Elliotte Friedman. And lastly, here going over to the Calgary Flames. Now, Elliotte Friedman has been talking about Chris Tanev and Noah Hanifin, both on the recent 32 Thoughts podcast, as well as the Saturday Night Headlines on Hockey Night in Canada. He's been talking about both of these things. And on the Saturday Night Headlines on Hockey Night in Canada, he does say that Hanifin has made his determination, and it sounds like he's going to be going to market. So, according to Elliotte Friedman, there's a very likely chance that Noah Hanifin will probably get moved. Now, he says that there are a couple of Canadian teams who do have interest, but American teams do feel they have a better chance at signing Hanifin. So, it does sound like Noah Hanifin will become a UFA at this point in time. Maybe he goes to a team, signs an extension. It's very likely a possibility. But according to Elliotte Friedman, there's a very likely chance that Hanifin will get moved, and he's not going to be re-signing with Calgary. So it seems that that's sort of been settled now. And I've seen a couple of people be linking a couple of Atlantic Division teams to a guy like Noah Hanifin. On the Daily Face-Off, Frank Zervalli linked a team like the Tampa Bay Lightning, saying that they will be a team who Hanifin will be open to signing an extension with. On top of that, I've seen a lot of people link another Florida team in Florida to Hanifin. I've seen a lot of people link Boston. So it seems like teams like Boston, Florida, Tampa could all have interest in Hanifin. Now, I'll point out what I pointed out in my last video when I was talking about Hanifin going to Tampa. Do the Bolts have enough assets to pull off that sort of a deal? I think the Flames would want a first-round pick, a really good prospect, and maybe another piece to sort of add to their thing, maybe a young roster piece. Do the Bolts have enough assets to pull that sort of a deal off? I'll probably say no. They do have a couple of decent assets, but I'm not exactly sure if they have that many. Florida, same sort of thing. They don't have a first-round pick for the next couple of years. Would they be able to pull off a sort of deal? They do have a couple of decent prospects, maybe a little bit more of a stock prospect cover than the Bolts do, but once again, don't have a overly huge amount of first-round picks, which is probably something that Calgary would want, so we have to wait and see on that. Same sort of thing with Boston. No first-round pick for this upcoming season. They do have a couple of first-round picks after that, so I could see Bruins move something like that. They do have a couple of decent prospects, like a Kuntar or a Lorai. I don't think they want to trade, but that could be a decent prospect. Beecher, Poitras, they have a couple of other decent prospects too, so would they be willing to move them? Maybe it's possible, but I definitely do think that there's definitely some interest. Apparently Hanifin and the Bruins have been linked for quite some time now, and a lot of people do think that Boston's probably the only team that Hanifin will be willing to sign with. On top of that, Florida teams, a lot of teams like to play in Florida, so I don't think I'll be overly surprised to see them have interest in Noah Hanifin. But I wonder if any of those three teams will be able to pull off a Hanifin trade with all three of them not having their first round pick for this upcoming season. Florida's is in Philly, Tampa's is in Chicago, and Boston's is in Ottawa. So we'll have to wait and see exactly how that works out. But according to Elliot Friedman, Hanifin will not be signing an extension. Will most likely be testing free agency on July 1st, and there's a very likely chance that Tampa, Florida, and Boston all have some interest. So we'll have to wait and see on that. And last year, going over to Chris Tanev on the Theodore podcast yesterday, he was talking about Chris Tanev, and he does think that the asking price right now will be a first round pick. He said the Flames probably do have a couple of teams out there who are offering a second round pick, maybe even a second round pick plus, but they're trying to wait out for a first round pick for Chris Tanev. So not exactly sure if they'll be able to get it. They may have to try and just sell for like a second round pick and a decent prospect to move Tanev, but it seems like with them still 2.5 weeks away from the trade deadline, they are willing to hold out and just move Tanev as soon as they're able to get a first round pick for him. So we'll have to wait and see exactly how that works out. But it sounds like Tanev, the Flames really want a first round pick for him, so we'll have to wait and see if they're able to get that. But 5 teams that Elliot Friedman does link to Chris Tanev that he does think could wind up acquiring him are 3 Canadian teams and 2 Central Division teams who are in top 3 positions in that division right now. He links Toronto to them. Not too much of a surprise. He's from Toronto. A lot of people do think he would possibly wind up considering signing in Toronto in the offseason if they weren't acquiring him. I'm not exactly sure if they'll be willing to move a first round pick. They do have their own first round pick this year, but I'm not exactly sure if they're willing to move a first round pick. But he does say that Toronto's in there. Edmonton, once again, not overly surprised. This team needs top 4 defensemen. They would love a guy like Chris Tanev, but would there really be a Battle of Alberta trade? I really do not think that, so we'll have to wait and see on that. Vancouver, once again, not too surprised there. There's been a lot of talk that the Canucks have some interest in bringing back Tanev. Tanev would be interested in going back to Vancouver, so there's a very likely possibility that Tanev could definitely go back to Vancouver, although there's been a lot of talk that after the Lindholm trade with them moving a first round pick to Calgary, there's a very unlikely chance they'd be willing to move another first round pick. So if the first round pick's the asking price for Calgary, I highly doubt that he'll go back to Vancouver. And 2 other teams they mentioned are not overly surprising either, but Colorado and the Dallas Stars. Now the Avalanche have a pretty good defensive core. If they add Tanev, he'll be a fantastic second pair right shot defenseman. Will really round out a fantastic top 6 D core. So I could definitely see him trying to target Tanev. But in my opinion, I think they'll be more inclined to go for a forward, whether it be a center or a winger. I think they need a top 6 forward. So as much as I think they could have some interest in Tanev, I'm not exactly sure if that's their most pressing need right now. And he also mentioned the Dallas Stars. Not too surprised there. Stars are looking for offense. They could use a top 4 defenseman. They've been linked to guys like Hanifin, Walker, and now Tanev as well. So I think they'll definitely try and acquire a defenseman for a trade deadline. Tanev, I think it could be a really good fit there in Dallas. Now, will we want to move a first round pick? Maybe, but I'm not sure if they'd be willing to move a first round pick for a rental. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what happens there. But according to Elliot Friedman, the Flames are sort of trying to wait for a first round pick to move Chris Tanev, and as soon as they get that, my guess would be they probably want to make a move. And on top of that, it seems like Colorado and Dallas in the Central, and Toronto, Edmonton, Vancouver in Canada all have some interest in acquiring a guy like Chris Tanev. We'll have to wait and see exactly what happens there. But that's what I want to talk about for today. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on all this down in the comment section below. What do you think about all that we discussed today? Chris Tanev, does he get moved? Does he get moved for a first round pick? And if so, which team do you think could acquire him? Is it Dallas, Colorado, Edmonton, Toronto, Vancouver, or a different team? Definitely have to get your thoughts on that. What do you think about Hanifin? Does it sound like he's going to market? What do you think Hanifin will be worth on the open market on July 1st? And where do you think he could go? Could he go to Tampa? Could he go to Florida? Could he go to Boston? Definitely have to get your thoughts on that. Plus, does Edmonton move Broberg for a rental? Or do they stick by their word and probably not move him for a rental, only move him for some guy with term? Definitely have to get your thoughts on that. Do you think Vegas could acquire a guy like Jason Zucker? Zucker's a really good player. I think he'll really round out that top 9 for Vegas. So do you think they could acquire him? And do you think Nedeljkovic gets moved by Pittsburgh? If they are sellers, could you see a guy like Nedeljkovic be a guy who was on his way out in Pittsburgh? Definitely have your guys' thoughts on all that down in the comment section below. That's all I want to talk about for today. Until this video, and if you like to subscribe down below. Thank you for all your support, and everyone else who love you guys. Don't forget to continue to subscribe so we can hit 250 subscribers. Also leave a comment down in the comment section below discussing all that was discussed in today's video. I also do a blog talking about news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that, so definitely check that out. I'll leave a link to that in the description below, and I can't wait to see you guys all for our next video. See you guys soon.